You're listening to the Best Morning Routine Ever podcast, the show that proves no one stumbles upon success ever. With your host, Lou Need. Every Mondays and Thursdays, we deliver cold hard evidence behind the power of a robust morning routine. Get ready to be transformed by the renewal of your mind.
Hello, morning enthusiasts. Welcome to the Best Morning Routine Ever podcast. I am your host, Dr. Lou Need, and today we have a phenomenal guest coming onto the show. We have a habit expert, so this is going to be a conversation to tune in for. Eric is a CEO, mentor, author, and a peak performance expert. He has been named CEO of the Year at the 2019 Business Excellence Award and one of the top 30 entrepreneurs in the UK. Eric is certified as a peak performance coach and also has completed a coaching certification with the Professor BJ Fogg around habits. And he studied all things psychology, neuroscience, habit change, leadership, and peak performance. Eric has released his new book, did last year actually, 3 Alarms, a simple system to transform your health, wealth, and relationships forever. So I'm looking forward to dive into his books, but most importantly, habits and being a peak performer. So with no further ado, Eric, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, and super excited to be here. And yeah, hopefully we can deliver something really valuable to whoever's listening.
Yes, it's an honor to have another habit coach in the room. Thank you for coming again, as I expressed earlier. But before we get into the nitty gritty, tell us about your journey, your background, and how you got here thus far.
Yeah, well, I've done lots of random things. So I started off as a consultant with McKinsey and Company. So I was focused on strategy consulting. I worked in the Chicago office for a while in the States. I worked in the Oslo, Norway office for a while. I'm half Norwegian. And then I came down to London. I joined Skype in its very early days. We were about 30 or so people. We grew to 50 million users, and we were purchased by eBay for over $2 billion. Wow. So that was a rocket ship of a journey. And then after Skype, I was missing Mexican food, having grown up on it in Chicago. And so then I started and built and grew what became an award-winning chain of Mexican restaurants in the UK.
Really?
Yeah. And the common thread throughout all of that, as different as it all sounds, has been an obsession with realizing my full potential and helping others to do the same. So I came across a quote from Abraham Maslow, where he estimated that only 2% of people operate at their full potential. And so I've always had it in my head that I want to gain entry to the 2% club and help others do that as well.
Yeah. So
everything that I work on these days is about giving people that activation energy and the tools required to break free from that 98% and join the 2%.
Yeah, and then you've done so much being so young. Like, you built so many businesses along the way and worked for a lot of big firms too.
I'm 45, so I'm kind of like midway through my professional career. So it's a lot of time has passed though too. It's been over 20 years of work. So yeah. You can get a lot done in 20 years.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's just a matter of getting started. There's a quote out there that says the best time to have started was 20 years ago. Or, it was like yesterday. Yeah. You should have started yesterday, because the minute you start, then you can actually make adjustments to become better and better at what you do. So tell us about peak performance. What is it like to be at that 2% that you mentioned, at full potential?
Well, So I like to think about it, very practically speaking, in terms of tools. So how do we actually, gain entry to that 2% club? And in my book, The 3 Alarms, I present a really simple framework for how to achieve that. Mm-hmm. And for me, it's all centered around IPA. So like the beer, but better for you. So the I stands for identity. We need to decide who it is that we want to be. We can't become a better version of ourselves in the future if we're going to continue being the person we've always been. So it has to start with, okay, what are you at your best? What does that look like? And then I talk about productivity. And the reason I move immediately to that is because it's no good defining what best looks like and putting on that costume if you're just going to sit there and be Wonder Woman or Spider-Man on the sofa and not do anything. You know, you need to exercise those superpowers.
Yeah.
And we do that through action. And by optimizing our productivity, we're optimizing ourselves for action.
Yeah.
And then the reason I talk about anti-fragility, the last piece. So we have identity, productivity, and anti-fragility. That's the IPA. So anti-fragility. So most people, when I ask the question, so what's the opposite of fragile? They will say something like robust or resilient. But Nassim Taleb, he wrote a fantastic book called Anti-Fragile, where he says, no, the opposite of fragile is anti-fragile. So fragile means that you take a few hits in life and that's it. You break down. If you're robust, you take more of a beating, but eventually you break down. If you're resilient, by definition, it means that as you take hits, you absorb the shock and you return to the same. Anti-fragile means that the more hits you take, the stronger you become. So for me, it's like a suit of armor that you wear, whereby every blow to the armor just strengthens it. And the reason that's important is because in my experience, the number of days out of 365 that go to plan, like exactly in a year, maybe it's like 5. So, you know, the unexpected things not happening as we would hope, that's the reality. So wouldn't it be great to be anti-fragile then, such that the more that happens, the stronger you become? So yeah, that's the 3 general areas. And I'm happy to talk, about all of them or some of them, but it starts with me around IPA, identity, productivity, and anti-fragility.
And to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, right? To actually understand that stuff's gonna hit the wall, it's gonna hit the fan, and that you're prepared and you expect it, and you I love that you said it's beyond resiliency. It's just not just coming back to that threshold, to that level that you were before you got knocked down, but to come back stronger, to actually come back another level because you've learned something while you were down.
And the key thing you said there is that you expect it.
Yeah.
And when you develop an anti-fragile mindset, you turn life into one big mental gym. When you go to the gym, you go there expecting stress,
failure,
right? You go because you know that if I stress the muscle, it causes it to grow. You don't go to the gym to de-stress the muscle. You stress it.
Yep.
De-stressing it is not going to cause it to grow. The gym, when you get a gym membership, you're getting a stress membership, right?
Yeah. And
so the reason I point this out is that we actually get this. We get it. We get it physically. Our bodies get it. You stress the muscle, like I said, it causes it to grow, expose the body to germs and bacteria, it builds the immune system. So we just need to get what's going on here physically up in our heads mentally. And when we do that, then all of those challenges and things that don't go your way in the course of a day, those are nothing more than the personal trainer in the gym coming up to you saying, hey, I got a dumbbell for you. You want to curl this?
Yeah.
And if you run away in that moment, what happens? You don't get stronger, right?
That's right.
But if you step towards them, if you step towards the weight, if you step into the weight, if you take it, if you complete the repetition, put it back on the rack, say done, next. Now you've gotten stronger. And life presents to us during the course of a day all these little weights, all these little dumbbells. Here, try this one. Oh, you don't like that? Here's another one. Oh, you didn't like that? That wasn't enough for you? This one's a little bit heavier. Here you go.
And I love the humor about that because it's so true. It is so true. And the more you lift, the more you can handle, right? The bigger the weight become, the more success you can actually get, right? Because if you're standing still, you're not making any progress. If you're not lifting the weight, you're not actually going to get to the next level, to the next goal. Because a lot of us are afraid of failure. Failure has this negative connotation to it when it shouldn't. As you say, we go into the gym so we can fail and break down our muscles only to rebuild them. It's the same mentally, is what I'm hearing.
And I like when you picked up on the humor part, because the humor part does make it easier. Because during the course of a day, when my youngest one doesn't want to get ready for bed and he starts swinging like a little monkey from the chandeliers and, and just acting like a 7-year-old, right? So I laugh to myself because then, in that moment, and I don't always get this right, but, sometimes, I'll lose my cool. Sometimes I will do the equivalent of running out of the gym. But I think of it as, okay, so what am I going to do right now? Am I going to run out of the gym, run away from the weight? How ridiculous would that look? Like you're in a gym, personal trainer hands you a weight, and all of a sudden you just take off running and you just leave. They'd be like, what the heck is wrong with Lunid? She just ran out of here, Yeah. Or they presented you the weight and then you just start screaming at it and cussing at it. Like they'd be like, whoa, what's wrong with her? So I think about that sometimes and I'm like, okay, am I going to start like screaming at this weight right now? Am I going to run out of the gym or am I going to step into
it? Because then that's cast a vote towards the identity that you want. I kind of see what you're talking about as a loop, right? Because if the identity is I'm fit, I'm going to have the best body, lifting the weight, that last portion of it, when you do it, it casts a vote to reaffirm that identity of who you are. Because I do have a formula similar to yours, Eric, that goes like this. You have beliefs plus repetition equals identity. And your repetition of your habits, your repetition of those behaviors. But if you have this belief, it all starts with your belief. And I want to come back with to your belief portion of it to tell us a little bit more about that, because you can't just change your habits. It won't be long term. You have to change your beliefs. Who you are, your value. If you have the belief that I am not enough, you're not going to take the right actions. You're actually going to take the actions to prove to yourself you're not enough. That's the scary part. And so I'd love to dive into the importance of having our belief system, as I call it, our BS system, in alignment with who we want to be.
Nice. I love it. And that for me does connect. You're totally right on the money. It connects right back to the identity piece. And the way I look at identity is that there are 3 critical domains in life that we need to show up at our best in. It's our health, our wealth. And when I say wealth, I mean both making the money and what you do with it. So our health, our wealth, and our relationships. If we show up as a superhuman version of ourselves, us at our best in each of those 3 areas, that's a life well lived. And what I did, and this relates to the title of my book, The 3 Alarms that I just wrote, I have 3 alarms that go off on my phone every day. And I've segmented my day with the idea being that I'll have a best self identity power the relevant segment of my day. So at 6:30 a.m., the first alarm goes off and it says pro athlete. I'm not a pro athlete. I never will be. But, when I bought my son a Captain America costume, he became Captain America. And so, right? So I didn't have to give him any behavioral training. He just did it, right? Like costume on, boom, he's Captain America. So when that alarm goes off, pro athlete, it's like, oh, well, is there any chance I cannot do my workout right now? Well, no, because a pro athlete doesn't need to feel like working out. They don't even need to want to work out. They just do it.
Yep.
And when I'm doing the exercise, if I'm feeling a little bit like, oh, I don't know, am I going to get that 10th repetition? Come on, pro athlete. Does a pro athlete get the 10th repetition? Of course they do. And they get 11 and 12.
Yep. Muhammad Ali says he starts counting when it hurts. So he doesn't even know the reps that he does.
Yeah, exactly. And David Goggins, he says he's got this, former Navy SEAL, he's got this, the 40% rule, he says. So when you're at the point where you feel like, oh, I'm at the failure point with this exercise, you're 40% done.
Oh, damn. Our standards are so low compared to these pro athletes.
Yeah. So pro athlete, 9 a.m., next alarm on my phone goes off. Because you can label an alarm to be whatever you.
And change the sound. I change it to motivation. That rings. Yeah.
You got it. And that one says world's best coach to remind me, how would that version of me show up in the day?
Yeah.
And then at 6:30 p.m., the final alarm of the day goes off for me, and it says world's best husband and father. To prompt the question, how would the world's best husband and father walk through that door right now?
Nice.
And so I'm totally with you when you talk about intentionality, when you talk about belief, when you talk about deciding, who it is that you are and that you want to be.
Yeah.
And that's not a one-off exercise for me. I got to remind myself of that multidimensionally, across those three domains at the right time every day.
Yeah.
So that I can keep closing that gap between my current and best self.
Thank you for being honest about that, because we think it's a one-time thing. We do it once a day or once a month. It's constantly. We have to shift our thinking and adjust our thinking, because we think about it, we have 60,000 thoughts a day. And 90% of those thoughts are the same ones from yesterday. And I think you alluded to that. How can we be a different person if we're doing the same things as yesterday, or if we're thinking the same thing as yesterday? So it really is a challenge.
Yeah, you can. You got to start thinking new. You got to, and you got to define what best looks like, give it a name. And then the other thing that I do is on a daily basis. So I got those three identities, right?
Yeah. Three beliefs. You do have those three beliefs that you're adhering to. Yeah.
Three beliefs. Yeah. And at the start of each day, as part of my morning routine. So I have this morning, I think of the morning as the time when I rev the engine of my day, right?
That's right.
Get that engine going.
Yep.
So my morning routine is I rev the AM, or I rev AM.
Okay.
And so the I stands for identity. And that's when I think about these three identities. Mm-hmm. And I pick what I call a champion proof. Like if these three identities represent me at my champion best, I picked the one thing that I could do in the context of the day, which would evidence that I was being that champion version of me, whether it's telling my wife that I love her, playing a game with my son, finishing a presentation, hitting 700 calories in the stationary bike. I just picked one thing in each of those three areas.
Yep.
R is for reading, E is for exercise, V is for visualize, the A is for affirmations, and the M is for meditation.
Nice.
And that's how I rev the AM.
Nice. That's interesting that you brought that up, because after talking to thousands of entrepreneurs for my podcast, I kept hearing reoccurring themes that take place in the morning that they do. And all that you've listed is on that list. And that's what led me to come up with the Hit Savers app, which is an acronym for each of those habits as well, to give people access to the morning routine. And it's affirmation. It's really visualizing what you want to accomplish for that day, for the week, for the month, and then for the year, like being mindful and intentional about it on a daily basis, and reading and exercising. And then the last piece that's on that list is cold shower at the end of making the last 60 seconds of your shower ice cold, because it kind of primes you to not just be alert, but be comfortable in being uncomfortable. And you know how uncomfortable our day makes us.
Yeah, I hear you. So it sounds like we're quite aligned in the way we think.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So,
but none of this is easy, right? It's like, because we certainly don't want people listening to think, oh, so Eric and Lunid got this all dialed in. Like, no. The reason I teach this stuff is because I need this stuff, right? Yeah. I teach this stuff because there were gaps in my life because of the absence of these things. I need these things are my crutches. They're the things that make me stronger, right?
They're the tools to get you to that 2%, right? Would you agree?
Yeah, totally. So, it's all
daily effort.
Exactly. And none of it's about trying to be perfect, because that's not achievable. But I'll never be a pro athlete. I will never be the world's best coach. I will never be the world's best husband and father. I'm sure there's going to be somebody who's going to beat me.
Yeah.
But by having something to shoot for, over time, my lows become higher, my highs become higher. And I trend upwards, but I still have that bumpy ride, but I trend upwards.
Yeah, you want the direction to be going in the right way. I love how humble and modest you are about it, because in our line of work, we understand there's no comparison to other people. So yes, you are the world's best coach. You're better than you were yesterday, right? You're the world's best father to your world, to the people, and there's no one like you in that realm. And so the minute that we take away that external comparison, then we realize we are living in our truth. We are living in that true sense of like, we are the best. I'm the best in my world. I'm the best wife to my husband. I'm the best mother to my kids. I don't have kids yet, but you understand where I'm going with it, right?
Totally.
We moving away that comparison just makes us the king and the queens of our world.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
100%.
I want to talk about productivity, and let's get into some of the habit tricks in terms of cultivating our environment that it helps us to be more productive. We're moving the cues out of our environment so that we can, if we want to work out, like putting our shoes in front of the door or sleeping in our workout clothes. Let's talk about those habit tricks that people can utilize to thrive more in their day.
Yeah.
Not depending on willpower, but more on the habit.
Right. So I will share 3 things on the productivity front.
Yeah.
And these are 3 powerful routines that don't represent everything that you could be doing productivity wise, but that I think deliver some of the biggest bang for the buck.
Yeah.
And number 1 is to recognize that a productive day never begins the day of, ever. It always begins the night before.
Amen. Yeah.
And it begins with shutting your day down correctly and getting some good sleep. I have an acronym for this. So I think of it as when your day ends, you want to sedate yourself, but not with a glass of wine like everyone wants to do. For me, it's just a creative pronunciation of the acronym SD8. So sedate. Mm-hmm. And the S is for shutdown.
Yeah.
You need to have a static appointment in your calendar where you shut down your day and you say enough's enough. And you choose the top 3 things you're going to work on the next day. Yeah. And program them into your day, and then you're done. You actually put them into your schedule for the next day. Then the D is for digital sunset. No electronics in the hour before sleep, so that you have the maximum amount of melatonin, which is what induces deep sleep, in your brain as possible. Because any of that artificial light going through your eyes, especially in the last hour before bed, will reduce your melatonin production by 50%. Meaning you won't sleep deeply and restfully.
Yeah.
And then the 8 is go to bed at a time so that you have a chance to get a full 8 hours of sleep. So that sets you up for a productive day. You know what you're doing because you shut down your day. You chose your top 3. You maximize your melatonin. You got 8 hours of sleep with that digital sunset. In the morning, so I talked about, I rev the AM. And so that is a nice way that I used to start my day. You could do some of those things, all of those things, but have some kind of structure to your morning. And then beyond that, I like to make sure that I start my day creatively rather than reactively.
Yeah.
So rather than starting it in my inbox or on Slack or social media or in the news, I do one of those top 3 things that I decided the day before, and I make sure that I start with that. So I'm starting with output rather than inputs.
Yeah.
And then the last thing that I do is my work day routine. So as the work day progresses, I focus on trying to divide my day into maker versus manager time. So my mornings, I try to keep relatively free of meetings and do even, all of my important focus work. And then my afternoons, that's my maker time. My afternoons is when I meet with other people. So internal meetings, external meetings. So maker versus manager. So evening routine, morning routine, workday routine. Evening routine is sedate, SD8. Morning routine is I rev the AM, plus try to start creatively, not reactively. And then try to divide your day up into maker versus manager time.
Yeah, and then starting the night before. The productive day starts the night before.
Yeah, exactly. So that's, a little take. All of this I cover in a lot more depth in my book, The 3 Alarm. By the way, anybody, if you've listened this far, thank you.
Yeah.
And if you head over to my website at ericpartaker.com, ERIC Partaker.com, you can actually get a free digital copy of my new book, The 3 Alarms. And it has all of these concepts in it, plus loads more.
Fantastic. Yeah, of course. Thank you for giving us a free copy of the book. We'll definitely put that on the book. How else can we connect with you if we wanted to reach out to you?
That would probably be the best way is, head to the website, grab a free digital copy of the book. By doing that, we'll be able to connect and stay connected, via email. Yeah, so I'd recommend that as a starting point. And I hopefully do, I do look forward to, hopefully connecting to some of the listeners of the show.
Yes, absolutely. Just to recap, Morning Enthusiast, this has been Eric Partaker, and he dropped the acronym IPA, not the Oxy beer, but more of identity, finding your identity, being productive, and anti-fragility, which is it's beyond resiliency and being able to just bounce back, but stronger and than you did when you got knocked down. So I really love that. And your morning routine, Eric, is really, I know we don't like the word robust, but it really is setting you up to thrive for the day. I rev up AM. I really like that acronym of you putting in there, exercising and reading and affirmations and meditation. That stuff kind of keeps you helps you set the tone for the rest of the day, realistically. Yeah, so it really was really, really nice. Thank you for sharing. And I love the morning starts the night before. The morning routine starts the night before. The productivity of the day starts the night before. And just being able to shut down the night before and actually getting adequate sleep, but also just shutting down all electronic. That's huge. That's hard for a lot of people to do nowadays. So Eric, I really thank you for your time and your presence today and for sharing with us. Your book, and I know listeners will go to your ericpartaker.com to get a free digital copy. And I thank you again so much for coming today.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks to everyone who's been listening.
Yes, it's been fantastic.
All right, morning enthusiasts, that's it for today's show. Thank you for tuning in. If you love the Best Morning Routine Ever podcast, we'd love to hear from you. So go ahead and subscribe, rate, and give a review on iTunes or Google Play. While you're at it, tell a friend about the show. Be sure to visit bestmorningroutineever.com and our Facebook group to join the conversation, access the show notes, and discover our fantastic free bonus content. Until next time,